Namaste.
Pranam Pavanji, welcome back and welcome all our viewers who are reading the Living Hanuman book by Pavan Mishra ji. And like every day, we go by verses. And this time we have chosen to do two verses together, the verse 14 and 15, because of the flow of the meaning and the beauty, how, um, Tulsidas ji has kind of created the symphony in between these two verses. So the verse 14 goes like Sankadik Brahmadik Munisa, Narad Sarad Sahit Ahisa. And the verse 15 Jam Kuber Dikpal Jahan the, Kabhi Kobid Kahe Sakhe Kahan the. And the English meaning, which says Sanka, Brahma, and the sages, goddess, and the godly bard, king of serpents, sang for ages, failed to praise, tried they as hard. And then the meaning of the verse 15 Lord of death, nor the treasurer, nor Dikpal, guarding space, poets, bards, nor any seer who has words in your praise. Such a beautiful verse. And the in point meaning of these I am filled with a song of gratitude sung in silence. I have my ears to silence. Such beautiful meaning and how they flow together with each other. I read the chapter before we did our session, and I see how these two verses kind of combine the Hindu mythological gods, and so many of them representing elements, our chakras, and small connections between them, which we have missed kind of knowing in our everyday life. But when you read it, then you feel like, oh, there's a moment where you can join the dots. So I'll hand it over to you to speak something about these two verses.
So once again, the verses are Sankadik Brahmadi Munisa Narad Sarad Sahit Ahisa Jam Kuber Dikpal Jahate Kabhi Ko Vid Kahi Sakhe Kahate. Here, these two verses of the Chalisa have been least written about. And for me too, when I arrived at describing these verses, I had like a block. And then as a revelation, I got a cue to look at, and which is what I'm going to share with everybody today. These verses very mysteriously, very subtly introduce Hanumanji in his true self. So how do we go about it? Look at the meaning of the verse. The simple meaning of the verse is Sankadik Brahmadi Munisa, Sankadi, Sanak, etc., Brahma, etc., sages, etc., Munisa, Narad, Saraswati, Narad, Sarad, the Shesha, serpent, the cosmic serpent, thousand-hooded, and Yama, the lord of death, Kubera, the lord of wealth, Dikpal, the lord of directions, Dikpal, the 10 of them, there are 10 Dikpals. And the poets, the bards, who can describe you? This is what the poet is saying. The background is that Hanumanji has just brought Sanjeevani, the herb, and Lakshmanji has just opened his eyes out of unconsciousness. And Bhagwan Ram is extremely, extremely pleased that his brother is saved, his brother is fine, his brother is okay. And out of sheer joy, he praised Hanumanji, he embraced Hanumanji. We have seen that in the previous two verses. In this verse, poet Tulsidas comes in, and in the praise of Hanumanji is saying, Sankadi Brahmadi Munisa, Sanak, etc. Sanak, et al. There is a word in Latin, et-al, a phrase, et al, means others. Who are Sanaka and others? Why are these people being referred to by the poet? What do these people have to do in reference of expressing what Hanumanji is? Why should their praise be even mentioned, or their inability to praise? We'll see just now. Sanak, Sanatan, Sanat, and Sanandan. These were four quadruplets. They were the four mind-born sons of Brahma, the creator. When he was asked to create the whole universe, from his mind, Brahma created these four sons. They are Manas Putra, mind-born sons of Brahma. These four brothers, at the time of birth, were 5-year-old boys. And these 5-year-old boys, 4 of them, their father said, now go to Shiva and study the Vedas from him, gain the knowledge of the Vedas from him. Based on that knowledge, we will together create the universe. Gain the knowledge of the creative process, the process of creation. So these 4 boys went up to Kailash, and Shiva appeared in front of them as Shiva Dakshina Murti, facing south. That's all. Dakshina means south, Murti means one who is facing south. So Shiva was facing south. And at that moment, when these 4 brothers arrived, in that moment, Shiva manifested himself as half Shakti, half feminine, half masculine form, half Shakti, half Shiva form. This was his form in which he delivered the knowledge of the Vedas to these 4 brothers. While delivering the knowledge of the Vedas, knowledge of creation, Shiva also gave them the knowledge of dissolution. And these 4 brothers, their mind fields were so pure, so present in the now, that when they heard the knowledge of dissolution, they instantly dissolved back into their source. They went back into Brahma's mind and dissolved there. They became the mind field of Brahma once again. Now, the poet is saying, Sankadi Rishi could not praise you enough. Referring to, here you is Hanumanji. Sankadi Rishi could not praise Hanumanji enough. It is so common and obvious. Sankadi Rishi had just seen Ardhanarishwar Shiva. After that, they were liberated. Therefore, Hanumanji, without doubt, is the same Ardhanarishwar Shiva that Sankadi Rishi are construed to be praising. Hanumanji is Ardhanarishwar Shiva. And further on, in the Sri Vidya tradition, which we have studied, at the center of the Sri Chakra, in the Bindu, the deity of that Bindu is Ardhanarishwar Shiva. Of course, the primary deity is Sri Devi, Lalita Tripur Sundari, but she is conjoined with Shiva in his Ardhanarishwar form. If we stretch it that far, then we can call the deity even Ardhanarishwar Hanuman instead of Ardhanarishwar Shiva. Ardhanarishwar Hanuman to be the presiding deity of the Bindu of the Sri Chakra. This is a very precious and a sacred insight to be grasped at a very subtle level. We need not get into dialectics, but just what the poet is pointing at. I'm just stating it here. Similarly, Brahmadi, Brahma et al. Who are Brahma et al? Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesha. Brahma, creator, Vishnu, sustainer, Mahesha, destroyer. Generator, operator, destroyer. G-O-D, God. This Brahma et al., this God, also is not able to praise or describe him enough. That him is Hanuman. Sankadi Brahmadi Munisa. Muni, Muni means those who are mind turned, who are mind absorbed. You can call them Muni. They are the sages who are absorbed in the mind stuff. Here it is indicating that those with the purest of their minds also cannot intellectually reach a stage from where they can describe him, who is Hanuman, or you. It says, no one can describe you. And these Muni, they end up just saying, Neti, Neti, not this, not this, not this. That is all they can say about the entity they so want to praise and intellectualize. Praising is far, even intellectualizing, grasping is not possible through the mind. Narad, again, was a mind-born son of Brahma. Narad, a great, great, great devotee of Bhagavan, who wrote the Narad Bhakti Sutras. It is attributed to him, Narad Bhakti Sutras. Narad also is shown to be failing in describing. That means even through the highest stage of love and devotion, you cannot arrive into grasping and understanding Hanuman fully. Sharad. Sharad means Sharda Devi. Saraswati is her common name. People know her commonly like that. Is her proper name, but people know her popularly like that. But Sharda. Sharda means one who gives Shri. Shri Dadati. Shreya Dadati. One who gives Shreyas. One who gives Shri. Or unto whom those who are knowledge, who are wise, take refuge into Ashraya. All this will come under the context of Sharda. Such a one who is the goddess of wisdom, or goddess as wisdom, as knowledge, there is nothing beyond her cognition, also is failing to fully describe him. And Ahisa, the 1,000-hooded serpent. Shesha, the cosmic residue. When everything dissolves and only the cosmic residue remains, even that residue is not able to grasp who else remains, because that residue remains and also Shiva remains. The creation is all gone. Even so, the only thing that can be seen then is Shiva. But the 1,000-hooded serpent cannot, with his 20,000 eyes and 20,000 heads, or 10,000 heads, 1,000 heads, cannot see him, cannot perceive him, cannot grasp him. Jama, the Lord of Death. Now it is understood that Shiva himself has become Mahesh, and he keeps the department of dissolution under him. And Yama, being the Lord of Death, directly reports into him. He is Yama's boss, direct. And yet, Yama cannot say anything except when Nachiketa prodded him in Kathopanishad, Yama utters, he is. Wise who know him say that he is existence. Beyond that, he could not describe anything. Kuber. Kuber, in one way, can be considered a son of Shiva. In our tradition, we understand that Shiva became Pulastya Rishi, and he had two sons, Ravana and Kuber. Of course, Kuber was thrown out of Lanka and he was reinstated in Alkapuri, near Kailash, in those mountains. It is known as the Shangri-La, famous realm that many seekers seek. Kuber is the Lord, the sovereign of Shangri-La. His neighbors to Shiva. And even he, being his son, his neighbor, living close to him, being worshipped with him on all occasions. Kuber is worshipped with Shiva. And yet he doesn't know. He can't describe him, can't say enough. Dikpal, there are 10 Dikpal, 10 lords of directions, 8 cardinal directions, 1 upward, skyward, 1 downwards. So there are 10 lords. And they are Brahma, Vishnu, etc. There are 10 lords, Indra. They all great energy divinities hold these directions of space for creation to manifest. Creation needs space to manifest. They hold it. And they know who asked them to spread that space, Shiva himself. They work intimately and closely with him. And also remember, Yajurveda ends with a mantra which says, Richa, it says, Om Kam Brahmaha, Kam Brahmaha, Kam Brahmaha. Space is Brahman. Kam means space. Om, space is Brahman. That means if they are the keepers of space, they are most intimate with Brahman. They're spreading him out. They're stretching him for manifestation to happen. And even they who are working, who are in working intimate relationship with Brahman himself, are unable to describe it. Kavi Kovid kahi sake kahan tu. Kavi are the rishis, or you can also call rishis as well as the poets, modern day poets who can just imagine anything. You can say even those who can imagine anything, can create any figment of imagination, any story, are also not able to create and imagine a story about you. That is why you will see, it's in a lighter note, not much has been written about Hanumanji. The book that we are studying together is the first syncretic and detailed extensive commentary on Hanuman Chalisa. On Hanumanji itself, much less has been written. Very little has been written. Even poets don't write poetries and sing praises for Hanumanji. Only whatever Tulsidas ji wrote is what is being sung popularly, and some bhajans here and there. Nothing, nobody goes in that direction. None and no one can perceive and conceive him. And therefore, here there is a mystic, cryptic, overwhelming introduction to Hanuman, that he is Shiva himself. He is the Supreme Being himself, congealed as a monkey, hidden as a monkey, disguised as a monkey, so that people are not intimidated. Rather, people ignore him. He might be sitting on a branch of a tree, looking at you. You might still look at a person looking at you, but a monkey sitting on a branch, running around here and there, who cares? And divinity, the Supreme Being, has taken form of that. The message is that every being is so sacred. You do not know. Here it is indicated he's taken the form of a monkey. He could have taken the form of a snake or a horse or a tortoise or a boar. He has taken these forms of a fish, of a lion. So you could accost, you could come across divinity in any form. And every form is divine. Every being is divinity congealed within, has divinity congealed within. So with these words, I will pass it over to you.
No, today I want to really make a confession. Long ago when we started studying this book, you have known, and I have also told you, that I am a huge devotee of Shiva. And I had met a mentor from Hong Kong who's also he's like my godfather, and huge devotee of Hanumanji. And I always asked him that, why did you choose Hanumanji? And he said that I didn't choose him, he chose me. So when we were going to get initiated to study the book as a course, all of us together in our Shrikul, I asked him that, I'm intending to study this. And then he simply told me one thing. He said, start practicing silence. And he said, the day you know the meaning of the Hanuman Chalisa, because he knows I come from a Hindu tradition and he's not Indian. So he said, the day you know the true meaning of the Hanuman Chalisa in the verse, there are so many hidden points that you will know that you may be devoted to Shiva, but you being called to study, or you being presented an opportunity to study the Hanuman Chalisa in a detailed form, is a calling. And today, when not today, a few days ago, when I read this verse, and you have given very detailed meaning of how no one was ever able, the poets, the goddesses, the deities, the directional gods, none of them were able to say much. And I was reminded very briefly in my silence time in the evening that my mentor told me that when you read this, you will know why you have been called to read the book. And the the I obviously know that Sri Hanumanji is an incarnation, the 11th incarnation of Shiva, but the the way it is kind of introduced in this book, creating the meaning from where, how the connectivity is built, truly gives me goosebumps. So with that, I will just quickly take one beautiful question from the In Journey, which is, can I spare some time in silence? And when I wrote the answer to this question, I was again reminded of my mentor earlier. Can I spare some time in silence, offering and experiencing praise and gratitude to the universe? Once a day, few days a year, and few hours each day of week. So just asking, do you practice silence, like in general, like a few days in a year?
You're asking me? Sure, absolutely. It is my primary practice. You are aware, I was keeping silence on new moon and full moon. Those days I have earmarked, but now I find that many festivals drop on those two occasions. So I'm shifting towards practicing silence on Ekadashis. Normally during Navratras, couple of days. Earlier, all 9 days I would, but now with quite a bit of sharing work coming up, I include this work as part of silence. But in my previous years, yes, I have practiced silence, and I know the nectar of silence, and I would wish to go back into longer silences. In our tradition, in the Sri Kula tradition, you know that silence along with fasting and stillness forms the three pillars of our practice, with two additional pillars: conquest of sleep and an inclusive attitude towards the world and life. We call it brahmacharya, but you can call it a universally inclusive sentiment.
Absolutely.
These form the five
I
pillars.
personally do practice silence every now and then, but now I've made it a practice to inform others that I am in silence, because sometimes it's difficult in a social setup. It's very difficult to explain to others when they want to reach out to you. So it's really easy if you pre-inform them. So with that, I will just take my action point, which is from verse 14, is to perceive the union of apparent opposites in every aspect of life. This has a very underlying meaning. Like, if one just wants to kind of just meditate on this thought, I sat with it and I could come up with so much in my head. Like, if even if I'm practicing silence, I think silence for me is probably not just words, it's also to silence the mind. And the verse 15 is to study books about my inner journey. That's my favorite thing to do, which is why we are doing this course. And
Yes.
you know that I am like a little bookworm who's like a sucker for traditional knowledge. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for writing this. Every time I say this, and it's really not because I have to say anything to you. You know me from more than a I think we're reaching 2 decades now. Yeah, and you know that there is a child in me, and I think that gratitude of coming across this book at this age and finding revelations and connections from childhood to your teenage, to all that you have known as like I have known as a child, and finding the true meaning and essence of it really brings, I think it just brings so much joy and peace within. So thank you, and see you very soon for the next one. Take care. Bye.